Hello, folks, and welcome. Welcome to Just Folks Conversations with Emma, and I'm Emma. And as always, I'm so delighted to be back and to be here in this space. This is a really comfortable space, and it's comfortable because we have conversations, and everyone has a story to tell in their conversation. And today, we're going to have a guest who's a little different because she's a listener. She's an excellent listener. She's been listening to people all of her life. And because of that, she has a number of insights and experiences that she can share with us. My guest is Frances Harris. And Frances is someone that I met in my spiritual travels. And I'm so happy to have met her because her journey is one of discovery. She is a wife, a mother, an inspiration. She teaches, she's a student, she studies. And as I said, she's a good listener. So, with those kinds of skills and those kinds of insights, our conversation is just going to wander. We're just going to let it go where it goes. So, hi, Frances. Welcome.
Thank you, Emma. Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us because your presence really says a lot for lots of people who have similar profiles. They're quiet, they're shy, but they are movers and shakers. And that is who you are. May I share a story with the audience?
You may. You
Okay,
may.
okay. Several years ago, um, our church, we attend the same church, produced a program. It was a spiritual journey. It was called Transformation. And in this particular program, people of all kinds of backgrounds came together to produce a fashion and talent show. And I hounded Frances, ran her down to be in the fashion show because, as you can see, she's gorgeous. And initially, Frances, you were not in favor of participating. Would you like to just dive in a little bit and tell us about what that experience is like for you?
Sure. That is absolutely the truth. I was very reluctant, very reluctant. I am a person who stays in the background, always. Great supporter, help you do whatever I can do, whatever I can contribute. Um, Encourager, love to encourage. Uh, but to be out front, no. Now, that is something that I wanted to do as a young person, but talked myself out of it completely. Being in front, being in front of a camera, for instance, which is why today is so amazing that I am here talking with you in this manner. But the fashion show itself really was an amazing experience. Not just for me, I think I can say for probably the majority of everyone that participated, because it certainly got me out of my comfort zone. And it wasn't so much the clothing. It wasn't the outfits. It wasn't that. It was really uncovering um, ideas and things that have been hidden and pushed down, and just thinking differently about how you can be, and that what previously was is simply that it was. But you can always, as long as you are thinking and living, you can always do something. You can always think differently. And so that experience with the fashion show, in being in the fashion show and actually getting out of my own way um, was was the beginning of a new way of thinking for myself personally,
Well,
and it was fun. It was fun.
I find that really interesting, and it was fun because you are a parent of two very delightful, handsome young men who are movers and shakers in their own right. Um, and when you take, as you say, take yourself out of your comfort zone, you had been their mom, exclusively. And of course, you were employed and you worked and you're a wife as well. So, what did it take for you to make that transition?
To being a mom.
No, to coming out of
Oh,
that shell, for
oh, oh. I think it was. I will tell you, hands down, a lot of that transition, that journey, I'll say, has really been due to my husband. The fact that we are at One God, One Thought Center for Better Living, and our sons, Austin and Emily. Those are the factors that have really been so key in the movement and the changes that I've begun to experience and feel uh, and want to move into at this space in this part of my life more so than ever before. It has been those factors that have really been the catalyst of me getting beyond fears and doubt, and for myself, not for others. I am the best cheerleader and supporter that you will ever find for anyone who is wanting to live their dream, wanting to do whatever turns them on. And I think that I'm a good person. Um, I listen to what people say, and I look at how people respond when they're talking about certain things. So I think I'm a pretty good judge with some folks of what they can do, what they can do, what they find passion, because I look at how the life comes in them and changes. And that's exciting to see. I, however, don't, I have not in the past been able to receive that when other people have said to me that, oh, you're great at thus and so. Always the doubt is coming. So my husband and my sons and the spiritual community that I am a part of now, thank goodness, uh, has been so key in my unfoldment and continual unfolding uh, into the person that you are seeing, the person that is sitting here right now talking, because this is something that I would never do.
but yet here you are. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because having seen you interact with your children, your adult children, whom one of them was a teenager. He was in his senior year of high school when I met him, and the other one was a few years behind. Oh, well, of course, they're one's younger than the other. But I could see with your interaction, the very thing that you said, listening carefully to them, watching to see what it was that brightened their expressions and their responses, and then being that encouragement, not just blindly going rah rah, you can do it, but a thoughtful response to things that they were interested in, um, and to watch young Black men grow into adulthood who are sensitive, balanced, successful, motivated, kind, all of the things you would want to see for anyone's child. to see that come to full fruition is moving and is deeply appreciated because of the impact that you've made on them and basically everyone you come in contact with. Look at the that pebble being dropped into the pond and the ripples. We don't know how many thousands of people that you'll never meet face to face are being impacted by your ability to have that empathy and that genuine integrity in listening. And the key thing is that you said you listen, but you also use judgment. And I think that's really discernment, and that's important as well. I have a
Thank
question.
you.
But I do have a question for you because looking back over your own life as a young girl, what kind of person were you? Say something about your childhood.
Wow. Okay. So my childhood was my childhood. My childhood was interesting. Um, I am an only child of my parents. My father was married before he married my mom. So my dad had a family prior to, um, and he had three sons, and always wanted a girl from what I understood. Sometime later, met my mom, and and I came along as I understood. I found out that my middle name was something that was a name that my father always loved, and he wanted. If he ever had a girl, he wanted to name me, give one of his daughter to be named that. That's my middle name, which forever I did not care for. I did not know the story. I did
What
not know the story of my middle name. I didn't know how important it was to my father
and
until I
we had
was
a
almost.
we had a little glitch. Say your middle name because that blanked out. I want to make sure we all hear it.
I didn't say what my
Oh,
middle name is.
oh, you're
I
not going to
didn't
tell
say
us.
it.
Oh, I assumed I missed it. Okay,
I didn't say it. I didn't share
okay,
it.
okay,
It is what I share my middle name. Those that know me by my middle name really are family, and some anyone that knew me at my on my aunt's neighborhood would know me by my middle name because my first name is Francis, which was my mother's name as well. So anyone that calls me by my middle name is someone that's either family or someone that knew me as a child through the family. I don't use my middle name.
okay.
I did not change it. I kept my middle name. The letter is P, but I did not change it when I learned how important it was to my father, and that was just about the time that I was legally able to change it, which was my intention. When I became legally able to change it, I was going to change my middle name, keep the P, but change the middle name. But when I discovered how important it meant it was to my father, I changed my mind because my father was everything to me. Mom, dad too. But I was daddy's girl. And so I didn't have the heart to break his heart. But my childhood was interesting. Um, I came up during a time of a lot of, I guess, unrest in the country. And things were changing, beginning to change. And my parents sought to kind of shield me from that as a young child.
Okay, let's
Uh,
clarify the unrest. Are you saying like Vietnam War unrest or
the transition from uh, segregation
okay,
and the time. So a lot of things were changing and beginning to
Social
change, but
unrest. Mm-hmm.
social unrest, yes.
Okay.
Um, and so they, kind of cushioned me, if you would, from the starkness of a lot of it in terms of signs being posted saying whether you enter here and and you enter here. So they shielded me from that. I had no idea about that until later when I read it in books because I didn't see it. I didn't experience it personally.
And what part of the country were you living in?
I am from Baltimore. I
Okay.
am born and raised here in Baltimore.
Okay.
So when my parents, however, are from the South,
Okay.
my mother was from Virginia, my dad from South Carolina. And so the summers for me when I was young would be here in the city until about July, and then I'd get shipped to the country to Virginia on the farm. Well, my grandparents had a farm, a lot of land down there, and so when I came along, uh, they still had the chickens, they still had the pigs. They had gotten rid of the cows. They had a horse. I think the horse's breed was gone. But pretty much it was the pigs and the chickens. And so I would go to the South for a good month, a month, 6 weeks, and I'd be on a farm doing everything that, learning how to live um, in a much different way than I was accustomed to living here in Baltimore. We did not have running water at that time when I came along in the house there. So I have the experience of going to an outhouse as a kid. We had a dual seat outhouse that was wallpapered and had laminate floors, but I had the experience of understanding how life was for in a different way. Uh, Heating by potbelly stove in the house that my grandfather built that had about 14 rooms. Um,
14.
yes, a living room, a dining room, kitchen. Um, there were how many bedrooms? Everybody had a bedroom. There was an upstairs, no basement, but there was an upstairs, two bedrooms upstairs as well. So my grandfather built that house,
Quick question.
and
Did he build it room at a time, or was it one really large house? Or do you have
it
that
was one
information?
really large house. It was a large. It was well, not a, it was a basically a rancher, but they built it upstairs. There were two other rooms upstairs.
Mm.
Only the two rooms are upstairs. But my grandfather built that house, and it was just amazing. So I would go there in the summer, and all of my cousins would come, and so I'd get a chance to see my cousins that I didn't get a chance to see throughout the year because they lived in DC and New York and that sort of thing. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, a lot of work, um, but it was interesting. It was interesting. It gave me a different appreciation for living in the city and growing up in the city uh, and understanding that life as I knew it was not the way that people always lived and that people at that time still lived. And so it gave me a huge appreciation for what people did to raise their families and what people did to make a living and and what people did just to, with all that was going on, still be able to love, still be able to be kind to one another, still be able to reach out and give to others. still have the capacity to share themselves and share wisdom and share guidance. Um, those are things that I grew up with in the country. And even here in Baltimore, when I was a young person, there was still that element where the community invested in children and invested. When I say invested in the children, they invested their time, they invested themselves, they invested in correcting or uh, if they saw a child or they felt that you were not doing something that would be in your best interest, they weren't afraid to say something to you about it. They weren't afraid to, when your parents would come home, tell your parents. And I'm an example of that. I remember, I grew up in an apartment here in Baltimore City, and it was in a residential neighborhood, so there were homes all around. It was a beautiful place, and the grass was lush and it was green, and and we were not able to play on the grass. You couldn't play on the grass. Well, one day with the other kids, so I love to be outside, love to play ball. We were on the grass playing soccer, and the lady who lived next door to us came to the window. She knew my mom and my dad, and she knew that I was not disobedient. I was doing something that I was not supposed to do, being with the other kids. And so she spoke to me and said, you should be on the grass. And I said, yes, ma'am. That thing you said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Yes, I understood. Got off the grass, but shortly later, I got back on the grass playing with the kids again. And so I remember she spoke to me once again, and she said to me, she said, when your mom comes in, I'm going to make sure that I let your mom know that I spoke to you. And I knew I knew that was going to, when my mother came home from work, sure enough, she was at the window and she let my mother know that she had spoken to me twice about being on the grass and playing on the grass. And my mother thanked her. She looked at me and then she thanked her. And then, and she made me apologize to Lady for being disrespectful and not doing what I knew that I should have done. And then I went home and she said, "No, why did you do that?" Said, well, I was just playing with the kids. I just wanted to play, but you know better. And I did, and I knew better. And so that was pretty much it. But it's those types of days and that period that I find has left that type of the ability and the capacity um, to be able to offer a word of instruction. I'll say it that way. Um, we've kind of lost that. We've lost that ability in that manner to offer those words of direction. And I think it's unfortunate. I think it's
Well, some
unfortunate.
people perhaps, but in your interaction with people in general, you have a way of listening that elicits um, a response that gives you the space to make an observation, to share a concern you may have, and it seems to be well received. So it's not that we've, I think, lost it. Maybe we don't all have the same level of skill that you do, uh, but it gets a little sticky because the intention of most parents, as a retired school teacher, having to intervene with children for various kinds of behaviors in various situations. I've had parents who were highly agitated because you talked to my child, you corrected, really challenging um, the role of a teacher. And yet, once was able to get the parent to understand that we were actually on the same team and that what we really wanted for that particular child was the best decision, the best possible scenario, and a skill set for that child so that child can make better decisions, people kind of step back from the defensiveness. Um, so I think it's still accessible to most of us, but it takes a moment. You have to take a deep breath. This is a very fast society. Look at how people drive now. Very aggressively. I'm going to get from point A to point B, and I don't care if the light's red. I don't care if the sign says don't turn. They want to do it anyway. Um, but again, your can I say aura of peacefulness and and intentionality, I think, creates a space for folks to see themselves in a different kind of light. So because you're able to do that, I know for sure it can be done. So that gives me hope.
Well, I thank you for that. I don't know. I was, when I was talking about that, I was mainly thinking more so community at large, not because I'm not a teacher. I'm not a teacher, uh, my children, but I'm not a teacher. That was not my profession. But um, I think that I just think that sometimes, as you mentioned, parents, sometimes I think that trying to find the right way to say it, sometimes it's difficult to um, uh, it's a challenge sometimes. I'll say it that way. It's a challenge sometimes. Um, Not to, and it's not, it's never with the intention to find blame. It's never with that, and that's not how. Uh, Back when I grew up, it was never about, I think, finding blame. It was more about being caring and being concerned about the path and always wanting to move towards doing positive things and being the best that you could be and loving. So the instruction, if you would, it was more because there was a concern and a genuine care in the community of the elders about the children, about wanting to see them be successful people, being productive, being viable, community members and giving back and contributing to the betterment of the community and to themselves and that sort of thing. And so it was in that framework that I'm saying that sometimes now it's a different sort of environment in some respects.
In many respects, and it's kind of a tricky path to walk. I agree,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things that people do is we understand. I'm going to call it vibrations. That's not a scientific word, but um, the presentation that a person, as I said, kind of an aura that you have, we are all able to interpret that even if we don't have words for it. And the the state of mind and the consciousness that you bring with you wherever you go, I think, is impactful in ways that you can't automatically see. And sometimes people get in their quiet spaces, they have a moment to reflect on something they've experienced, perhaps through you directly, even though you may not have had what you consider direct communication with them. You're still communicating something. You're teaching through demonstration. Anyway, I don't think you can avoid it. I think you're a master teacher, even if you don't label it that way or get a paycheck for that. Um, but I would like to ask you how, um, with this awareness that you have that you've come out of your comfort zone, how has that impacted your life? What kinds of decisions are you making now? What does that look like for
Well, it's interesting. Right now, I'm in this workshop with Reverend Burnett at church, and it's for the Lenten season. It came about because
you?
of the Lenten season.
And Reverend Burnett is the Reverend Burnett Lee Jones of One God, One God Center for Better Living in Baltimore, Maryland. Yes.
Yes, yes, definitely, yes. The amazing Reverend Burnett Lee Jones, and so she is facilitating this workshop that she's designed for the Lenten season, for this Lenten season 2024. And it literally is the members that are in this class are literally designing the workshop as Spirit has led them to do. So my purpose for this workshop, and that's why I said to you at the outset, we were talking before we began, that this truly is a walk of courage for me today with you, because I always want to know what's going to happen before it happens. I always want to know each step by step, what's this? That's me. And then this workshop that started the beginning of Lent a few weeks ago. We were talking the first night, and I said what came up for me in spirit as we were just talking was that I'm always thinking ahead. I'm either thinking about what has happened, or I'm thinking about what's going to happen next. How, what's the next step? What are we going to do? What's here? What's going to be asked? And I'm never really truly present in the present moment, in the now moment, because I'm always either thinking about what was or thinking ahead to what is yet to be. But I'm not really fully present in the now present moment. And so that is what I am really beginning to want to work on for myself, because it is now in this phase of my life, it is now, I'm in discovery mode of the newness of who I can be. And so this exercise, you have been continually on my journey, and I did not know that when we met several years ago. But God has divinely placed you on my journey of discovery. And
Thank
I'm
you.
very glad about that.
And so
I'm
am I,
very glad about
because it works both ways. And I find with every conversation I have with you, I too am learning something. Um, the the discovery that you are making about being in the moment is
that. Yes.
really, it's critical, probably all the time. But I'm looking at the busyness and the involvement and the issues and the world looks like it can be a very miserable place for a lot of people because of the conflicts and the um, unequal financial status of people around the world, the extreme poverty and the extreme wealth. And the middle group, it seems to be confused about what to do to maintain the balance. And people are looking for um, causes and it's easy to blame other folks. So with all of the stressors that come with our society, it's it's not it's not an easy thing to stay in the moment. But if in fact you're not able to stay in the moment, you're missing your life. So, for you to say that is it's golden. It's really golden. And I'm hoping that our viewers and listeners will be able to reflect on what that really means. Because I too, well, I have wonderful memories of the past. So you can retreat to those at any given moment and go back and then moving forward, well, what's going to happen? Because I'm going to make plans. But what about right right now? So I think when you say that, the fact that you are such a good listener, I believe that on some level you've been doing that anyway. But you're just coming to a full maybe awareness of control of how to really willfully engage yourself in that mindset.
Well, um, I know that I know that life is life is really what you make it. My mother used to always say, life is what you make it. Marriage is what you make it. But life really truly is what you make it. And I have they're very simple, but they're so profound. They're packed full of truth. Um, it is truly what you think. It is truly how you see it. And it is as you see it. And it's going to be as you see it. So I know that whatever happens, whatever is going on, I know that God is in the midst of it always. And even in the times and those things that are confusing and hurtful and beautiful and revealing, there is a nugget of goodness and good that's in it that is ultimately for your best life and for the best version of who you are and who God created you to be. Um, it's a matter of really understanding that and really coming to terms with knowing that you are not your experiences. You're not the sum total of your experiences, but you are an ever evolving expression of God's divine love and God's divine perfection. And it's a matter of returning to discovering that, rediscovering that, because when we come here, we know it. We get here, we know it.
As infants.
But I'm sorry?
As infants. You were
As
referring to
infants, we're completely pure and we completely know that we are it. We are it. But it's after we get here, it's after the interactions and the socialization and all the things that life provides. That's when the classroom begins and the evolution and all of those parts begin to take shape and begin to have their impact. And so when you're able to get back to knowing the truth, rediscovering the truth of who you are, who you really are, that you really are the spirit that's inhabiting this body. This body is not the real thing. Things that you can see and touch, that's not the real of you. Real of me, the real of us is the divine spirit that comes from perfection, that comes from the perfect love of God. And when you learn that, when you relearn that, I should say, it is a gift. It is really a gift. It's a gift.
Well, that's a very deep realization. And if you had any advice to share with our listeners and viewers, what words would you like to leave them with?
Love yourself. Love yourself and embrace the love that you are. Know that within you is everything that truly is. Everything. God is it. And everything that you are is the divineness of God. And so embrace that and know that no matter what, God is always with you, and whatever it is that you dream of, you can be that. And it doesn't matter. Time does not matter. Age does not matter. You can be what you choose to be.
Well, that is very, very inspiring. And I want to add, I'm very appreciative of the fact that you have taken the time to share your insights, and a little personal information, because people need to know that they too can do what you can do. And I think that teaching through demonstration is the most powerful way for you to share that message. And so thank you, Francis, for sharing today. This has been a wonderful conversation. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have indeed. It has been my distinct honor and pleasure. I am eternally grateful to you in so many things for your love towards me and your encouragement and your nudging me into the world. So thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
You're more than welcome. It is absolutely my pleasure. And I want to thank you for sharing. And I hope I will be seeing you soon.
Will do. Same here. Thank you.
Right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.